Hey guys, it's Melanie from MelanieKham.com. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video, we are gonna make this adorable quilt block. So cute. It's got a heart, and we are gonna put it on point in the quilt. So this video is gonna show you exactly how to make the block. And then over on my blog post, I have a free lap size quilt pattern for you guys. So if you want to make this into a full quilt, so it's a lap size quilt, then you will have all the instructions, the fabric requirements, and everything that you'll need to do that over on my website. The link will be down below. I also did it in yellow, which turned out really cute, although I like the white better. And yeah, super fun. This is a log cabin. Slightly different construction than a traditional log cabin, but I have a really easy method of how to do log cabins. I'm excited to share it with you guys as always. Links down below. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so that you're notified every time I post a new video. Yeah, let's get going. I'm gonna show you how to make it. All right guys, let's talk about this heart block. So this tutorial, I'm gonna teach you how to make the block, and then you can translate that into whatever project you like. Or if you want to make a lap size quilt, I will have all of the fabric requirements and all of that written out on my blog post. So that will be linked in the description box down below. But let's make this block. So a couple of things about this. You can see my colors here and our heart, which this heart is really going to stand out when we put our blocks on point. Okay, so they're going to be, if you make like a full quilt pattern or a table runner or anything like that, you'll need to have it on point in order to really be able to tell that this is a heart. This is Kona bone, which I like better than the yellow, and you need a very small amount of this, so even scraps are great. So let's talk about these fabrics here. These are like shot cottons. You can use textured linen kind of stuff. This is from a fat quarter bundle, and I cut it all into 1.5 inch strips. Okay, so I'm going to show you my log. This is basically a log cabin. It's kind of a modification of a log cabin. And so I'm going to show you my favorite method of putting these together, which doesn't mean you have to cut all of these pieces precisely. We do it with strips. So you can also do something like this too, where the outside piece is all one color. So you can really get creative in how you want to do your block, how you want it to look. But I'm going to continue building out my blocks with this version, with the bone in the middle and an eclectic combination of fabrics. This is an analogous color scheme where we have all those colors that are kind of next to each other on the color wheel, which is super fun. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fat quarters there to kind of help us have enough variety for our block. So the first thing we need to do, this is our center block, 1.5 inch square, and then we need another 1.5 inch square of the bone. Okay, so I try not to think too hard about this, honestly. I just kind of go for it, grab a color. Once it's all in a project, you won't even notice. All right, so I'm going to cut a 1.5 inch square here, and I want to note, I don't cut 1.5 inch squares ahead of time, and the reason for that is because as you get going, you're going to have small scrap pieces like this. You're going to end up, after you make a couple of these blocks, with pieces that are small, like this. Okay, and so then you want to use those pieces to make your 1.5 inch center block, because that way it'll just maximize the amount of fabric rather than it being any, waste. And then don't get rid of this, because this one, it'll be the perfect size for that piece or one of these other pieces. Okay? All right, so we've got our 1.5 inch block of our color. We need one of the bone. And let's go over to the sewing machine and sew these together. Okay, just for reference, this is the color orange that I'm going to be using. I just have a huge spool of it and don't use it very often, and that will blend in with my color palette. So when you are cutting your 1.5 inch piece here, also make sure you have your strips. Okay, so your 1.5 inch strips of your color palette for your log cabin, and then bring over your bone strip as well. Because the way that I like to do this, we're not going to be getting up and down a lot. We're going to try to do a lot of this from the machine, okay? Let's sew together our 2 squares. Line them up, 1/4 inch seam allowance. No need to backstitch. 2.5 inch stitch length. Then we're going to open this up, finger press toward the dark. Okay, so my seam is going toward my dark fabric here. So a little finger press. You can also use a seam roller or a bone folder, whatever you have. Let's keep an eye on our block here because we have to put this bone on the correct side. Okay, so we have these two here. We need to put this bone strip along this edge. All right, so just take your strip, place it. Does not have to be perfect. We want this, we want to get moving here, right? Okay, now take a pair of scissors and just cut the strip off. It can be rough because we're going to trim it up later. Okay, open it up, finger press. So now we've got our first center square here. The next piece needs to be along this top edge. Okay, so grab a strip, whichever one you want, whatever feels good. Make sure you've got a little bit overlapping at the top. Okay, and even if you've got some of the white popping out, no big deal. Once we do a few more rounds, then we're going to trim. Press toward the dark. Now you can kind of see now how this is going. We're going to be going in a clockwise fashion. So this is the next side that we need to do. At this point, I want you to head over to your ironing station, press it, and we're going to give it a little trim before we finish our outer strips. Okay, so we've got our inner bit here, and then we still have our outer ones to go. But let's give it a good trim, that way we're making sure everything stays square. There's our little block guy. Give it a quick little press. If you have little bits like this that are uneven, you want to make sure to clean those up. Okay, here's our little press block, and we want to trim this up to 3.5 because when it's sewn all together, it will finish at 3 inches in our block, okay? So 3 inches, 3.5 cut, lining up the 3.5, the 3.5. Okay, if you are having trouble getting it to this size, so let's say yours is really small, that means that you need to be using a scant 1/4 inch. And a scant 1/4 inch is just a few threads smaller than a 1/4 inch seam allowance. That just helps to make sure no matter what thread or any other variables that you have, your cutting skills, that you can still have this finish at the proper size. We've got this trimmed. There's our cute little heart. And now we can head back to the sewing machine and sew our last 4 strips. Okay, remember our rule of thumb is we are working clockwise, or just verify with a block you've already done or my photo to make sure that you're putting the next strip on the right spot. Okay, so we have here, here. So here is next along the right side of that heart. And we're going to go all the way around just like we did before. Remember, scant 1/4 inch. So make sure it's to the left of that line, or if you're using a patchwork foot, have it scooch in a little bit so that you're using a scant 1/4 inch. And that is true for any quilting project. And like this one, that fuchsia is a little bit larger because I cut it roughly. So you're going to line everything up with this white strip. And this one down here, because that's where we cut and trimmed, we know that that's the right size. Here's going to be a perfect piece for one of those little center squares. Okay, last one. I like this because it just goes faster and you're not driving yourself crazy cutting all these little bits of fabric. If you like to do that, totally fine. You'll have a little less waste in your fabric, but this feels just more organic and natural to me. All right, here we go. Let's go back over, press it, and trim it up. We're almost done with our first block. Here we go, press. It's pressed now. We need to trim this up to 5.5. Now you can see I have a little mistake on mine. I'll show you my mistake. So that way if you do it too, you won't be super discouraged. So this spot kind of comes in a little ways. It's about 1/8 of an inch. I'm not going to worry about it, and I don't think you should either. So just watch that next time. I probably scooched in too much. You can see where this seam is slightly crooked when I was seaming it, and I didn't follow my 1/4 inch exactly. So that's why that happened. If it's more than like 1/8 of an inch, then I would fix it, okay? But hopefully it's not. So there we have it. This finishes at 5.5 inches. And you can be super creative and have fun with this block. I hope you enjoyed making it. Again, if you would like to make a lap size quilt and have all those fabric instructions and those details are on my blog. But if you want to make these into coasters, mug rugs, put it on a bag, I mean, so many different options that you can use with these blocks. And I also hope that you liked learning how I do my log cabins. I think it's just a lot easier, simpler, faster way to do it. And it's more fun, in my opinion. So, there we go. Happy sewing. All right, what do we think? Pretty easy, right? Fun little hearts. Got my heart earrings on to celebrate. I love how this turned out. I think you guys are gonna love making this project. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.